Welcome to Saturdays with Miss Sassy, aka Tatyana Ranson. Thank you, Evelyn and Nyla, for watching me. And today we brought a guest, and his name is John Bill. Hello, Mr. Bill.
Hi, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Fantastic.
He is a Buffalo Soldier, so I'm going to ask you a question.
Go right ahead.
How did the Buffalo Soldiers come about?
The Buffalo Soldiers were created in 1866 after the Civil War. When the pioneers started to move west, the government did not have enough soldiers out west to protect them. And they had reduced the size of the army after the Civil War. And then they found out they had to increase the size of the army to make sure they protected the settlers. So in 1866 they created some black units commanded by white officers. And they were both cavalry units, which means they rode horses, and they were infantry units, which walked. And so they were sent west to protect the settlers in 1866.
Oh. How did they get the name of the Buffalo Soldiers?
When the soldiers got out west, the Indians out west had never seen a black soldier.
Oh.
They had always seen the white soldiers, and when the black soldiers appeared, they were surprised. And they called them a lot of different kind of names. And finally they decided that they would call them Buffalo Soldiers because when they looked at those soldiers, they found out that the hair on their head looked a lot like the hair between the horns of the buffalo.
Oh.
So they called them Buffalo Soldiers. And in Montana, when the Buffalo Soldiers went up to Montana, in the wintertime they wore great big coats that were made out of buffalo fur. So when they put those big coats on and they bent over their horses and their legs were hanging down, they looked like buffalo coming through the snow.
Cool.
They were called Buffalo Soldiers.
That's awesome. How did Buffalo Soldiers were there?
What's that?
How many Buffalo Soldiers were there?
When the Buffalo Soldiers were first created, their unit in the cavalry had 700 men in it. In the infantry, they had 1,000 men in the infantry. But out west, over the years, there were 8,000 Buffalo Soldiers out here in the West between 1866 and 1898. Wow.
That's awesome. So, your Buffalo uniform, about it, what is it? Like,
okay.
How cool about
the
it?
The uniform that I have on is a uniform that the soldiers wore in the 1870s and the 1880s. The hat is black. If you see a lot of the old cavalry movies, the hat was always white. But that was just for the movies. The Army did not issue a white hat. They issued a black hat. Around my neck is a bandana.
Like mine.
In the movies, they were always yellow. But the Army did not issue a yellow bandana. As a matter of fact, they did not issue a bandana of any color during that time period. The soldiers bought their bandana by private purchase at the local settler store on the fort. The main purpose for that bandana is for many things. It protects your nose when you're riding behind a number of horses so you don't get dust in your nose. When you're hot, in the hot sun, you take off your bandana, you wipe the sweat off your brow. If you're thirsty and you need water, you dip that bandana in the water and you get it real wet and you just touch your lips as you travel along the dusty trail. Leaves puts moisture in your mouth.
Cool.
And when it rains and you need something else around your neck or over your head, you put the bandana over your head, you put your hat on, that protects your head and your neck from all the rain and all the sleet and all the snow. You ride those horses.
That's cool. Where did they train at? Where did you guys train?
The Buffalo Soldiers were created, especially the cavalry, were created in two places. The 10th Cavalry, which is one of the units, was created in Leavenworth, Kansas. And the 9th was created in Louisiana. That's where they trained. In Louisiana and Kansas. And they came west. And they were in places like Texas, New Mexico, Arizona, Kansas, Oklahoma, Nebraska, a little bit of Minnesota, Montana, Wyoming, North and South Dakota, Utah, California, and a place we call Colorado.
Can you tell us about all this stuff up here?
Okay.
All these
What I brought with me today are some artifacts that the Buffalo Soldiers used. And quickly we can go over these things. Right here, these were slave chains. And we brought the slave chains to show you the starting point of the Buffalo Soldiers. Most of the Buffalo Soldiers have been former slaves.
Oh.
And they got a chance to join the Army. And when they joined the Army, they got a chance to get 3 square meals a day. They got a chance to get a new uniform. And they gained some pride. Along the backside is a weapon. It's a pistol. It's a black powder weapon. And it's a .44 caliber Remington. That's one of the weapons that the soldiers used for protection during that time period. This is a black powder weapon, and it's a cap and ball.
Okay.
Along the bottom are some things that they ate when they went out away from the fort. When they went out away from the fort, they ate beans, they had coffee, and they had hardtack. And hardtack
is this right here?
Is right here. And hardtack is just a real hard biscuit.
Oh.
That does not spoil, but when you dip it in coffee, it gets soft, and you can eat it.
Oh, cool.
We also have some spurs that were used by the soldiers in the 1870s. They're horseshoes because they were cavalry. They had to shoe their horses. There's a meat tin, the round thing over there, that's called a meat tin. It's what the soldiers would carry with them when they went out on the campaign. And in that meat tin, they would put some kind of pork, some kind of bacon, and when they would cook their beans, they would cut off the bacon or the pork and throw it in the beans.
Oh.
But that was not refrigerated. They couldn't go, they didn't have refrigerator with them. So in about 4 or 5 days, that meat in that meat tin would turn a little bit green.
Oh.
And they went back to eating hardtack, beans, and coffee.
Cool.
This is a picket pin. And for the cavalry, at night, they would, when they stopped the horses and had camp, they would drive these picket pins into the ground, tie the horse's lead rope to this, so the horse would stay there all night long and eat grass. Because if they got up in the morning and the horse had gone away, they weren't cavalry anymore. They'd be infantry. They'd be walking anywhere they wanted. So they wanted their horses to stay there. That's a halter for a horse. That's a bridle for a horse. This is a saber.
Oh.
This is a long weapon that's curved. That's on one side it's sharp and on the other side it's flat. That they use for protection when they were out on campaign. They used the saber first and the pistol second because this only had 6 shots in it.
Oh.
When they ran out of ammunition, they had to use that as a weapon. And finally, these are muskrat gauntlets made out of muskrat fur.
Cool.
And these are used by the Buffalo Soldiers in the cold climates, especially in Wyoming, Montana, and Dakotas, North and South Dakota, during the winter. That's what these are.
Awesome. So, what kind of weapons did they use? Like,
well,
how did they use it for?
We mentioned the pistols and we mentioned the saber, but they also used 3 kinds of rifles or carbines. And a carbine is a little bit shorter rifle. They used a Spencer and a Springfield and a Sharps. Those are the kind of weapons that they use for protection.
Cool. Well, we will be right back, and we will come back and we will be talking more about the Buffalo Soldiers and how they survived during the winter and the summer. So we'll be right back.